Why did my son's asthma lead to a police investigation? Daniel's asthma had been mild for years, just needed his inhaler during soccer season. But after we renovated the basement in January, he started wheezing badly whenever he spent time down there. I figured it was renovation dust, so I vacuumed everything twice, changed the air filters, even washed all the walls. Nothing helped. His attacks kept getting worse, but only in that specific room. Dr. Wolf upped his medication, but it didn't make any difference at all. That Tuesday, Daniel went downstairs to do homework, and 20 minutes later, I heard this horrible wheezing from the kitchen. I found him hunched over, pumping his inhaler desperately, his lips turning blue. I dragged him upstairs, and within 10 minutes, he could breathe normally again. He looked at me with watery eyes and whispered, "Mom, it felt like someone was sitting on my chest down there." I bought 3 expensive HEPA purifiers that weekend, set them all up running full blast. Next time he went down, same thing but worse. His inhaler barely worked and I almost called 911, but the second we hit the kitchen, he was fine. Dr. Wolf ran every allergy test possible, but everything came back normal. She said renovations can stir up irritants, give it time. But I started noticing the pattern myself. Daniel was perfectly fine at school, at friends' houses, everywhere except our basement. Even our cat Walter stopped going down there, just stood at the top of the stairs with his fur standing up, growling at nothing. Something was seriously wrong with that room, and nobody could tell me what. My husband Tom kept insisting it was anxiety. He's psyching himself out about the new room, he said at dinner. But I knew my kid's panic attacks, and this wasn't that. This was his throat actually closing. The mold inspector found nothing. I called my brother-in-law Steve to check it out. He tested for radon, carbon monoxide, gas leaks, everything was normal. Then he noticed one wall looked newer than the rest, maybe 5 years old, and it sounded hollow when he knocked. I told him to cut it open. Tom thought I'd lost my mind, but I didn't care. Steve cut a hole, and this sweet, rotten smell rolled out that made me gag. His flashlight revealed a 3-foot deep space behind the wall packed with small bones in perfect circles. "Jesus Christ, what the F is this?" he said, pulling back from the wall. Cat skulls, rabbit bones, dozens of them with melted black and red candle wax dripped everywhere. Some still had fur attached. Steve kept cutting, and we found more circles going floor to ceiling, maybe 50 dead animals total. Right in the center of the biggest circle, between 2 cat skulls, was a faded photo of a boy, maybe 10 years old, wearing a striped 70s shirt. I couldn't process what I was seeing. Who arranges dead animals like this? Who builds a wall to hide them? The photograph made it worse somehow. This kid with sad eyes staring out from between the bones. Steve called the cops while I ran to check on Daniel. They brought in a specialist who took one look and said, "You need to get your family out of this house immediately. Decomposing organic matter releases toxic particles." The hazmat team confirmed bone dust had been seeping through tiny cracks in the drywall. That's what was destroying Daniel's lungs. Every time he went downstairs, he was breathing in decades-old death. The previous owner, Peter Smith, had died 6 years ago in a nursing home. The cops couldn't find any record of Smith having a son. No birth certificates, no adoption papers, nothing. The elderly neighbor from across the street told the detective, "Peter was always so normal, kept his lawn perfect, never saw any kids there though. But someone had spent serious time arranging those animals in ritual patterns, and that photo was placed so deliberately. Was it his son who died young? Someone else's kid?" The hazmat team said the bones were at least 30 years old based on decomposition. They found pet collars in there too, with tags from the 80s and 90s. The remediation alone cost us $20,000, but what choice did we have? Daniel's breathing went back to normal everywhere in the house, except he still won't go near the basement door. We just use it for storage now while he pretends that room doesn't exist. I kept that boy's photo in my drawer for months before finally throwing it away because those sad eyes felt like an accusation.